40 years, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have left Europe policy to ministers and to mandarins, to a tiny Whitehall elite. Look at the collective mess that they've made of it. A fisheries policy with no fish, red tape strangling small businesses, financial regulation that suffocates the city. And now we're being asked to spend billions of pounds bailing out a currency that we never even joined. We've lurched from one bad deal with Brussels to the next, from one disastrous round of negotiations to another. This is the price we pay for leaving it to ministers and mandarins to decide our Europe policy. It's time to trust the people. Today, every member of this House faces a straightforward choice. You can either vote to give people a referendum on the EU, or you can vote not to trust the people.
Would my honourable friend give way?
With pleasure.
Would my honourable friend like to expand on that point?
I shall try to do so over the next 3 minutes, and I am grateful for that thoughtful and erudite intervention. It is, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a matter of principle. Is it right, in principle, to put the question of EU membership to a popular vote? Too many people in Westminster, in SW1, try to second-guess how the voters may vote in a referendum, and then work backwards to decide whether or not they favour a referendum. Instead, we should start from the principle. Is it right for the people to decide? And yes, I believe this issue qualifies for a referendum. It is of massive constitutional significance. It is an issue that, let's be frank, divides all three parties. It is an issue that I do not believe can be adequately settled in a general election. Referendums can no longer be dismissed, as they have been for many years, as somehow alien to the British tradition. We have had dozens of referendums since 1997. We have had a national referendum on AV.
Would you accept that the reason we're having more and more referendums is that the people who put us here simply don't trust us?
I think my honourable friend makes a very important point. There is a change, a mood change in this country, away from what you might call deferential democracy, when they leave it to the 650 people here to make public policy, to a new kind of democracy where people want more choice and politics to be done by them rather than to them by a remote elite. And this is a sea change that I think some people in our own party, in our own whip's office, have not truly understood nor grasped. If we are to have a referendum to decide how we elect members of parliament, surely we can have a referendum to decide whether or not those we elect should make the rules under which we live. Today's motion has been put on the Commons agenda by the people. It's to this coalition's immense credit that they've introduced a mechanism to allow voters to trigger debates. Some 100,000 voters have triggered this debate. But we cannot say that we want to renew democracy if we shy away from the outcome of what the people say. We cannot claim that we want a new politics if we then use old-style whipping tactics from the 1950s to crush debate. Or rather, we could do all that, but then I think we would have the credibility of a Greek government bond. Today's vote is about change. I'm voting for an EU referendum because I want change. I don't just want change in our relationship with Europe. I want fundamental change in the way this country is run. I'm not voting for a referendum in the hope that somehow it will take us to some insular, mythical island past. I'm voting for an open society, a truly global country. This is not ultimately about flags or anthems or identity. It's about whether it is right for millions of people to have their lives arranged for them by deliberate design of technocrats. It's about democracy. I ask each member to cast their mind back to the day that they were first elected to this House. Recall that sense of pride, mingled with awesome responsibility when the returning officer read out the winner's name. Most honourable members will have felt in their bones that entering this House was one of the most exalted and greatest moments in their lives. Look at how today we are scorned. MPs don't keep their promises, say the cynics. You say whatever you say to get elected, they cry. Today is our chance to show the cynics that they're wrong. All three parties until recently promised the people a referendum on the EU. There's no point in clever wordplay. There's no point in reading the clever brief from the Foreign Office officials. It was what most people understood, that we were going to give them a referendum. That's what MPs in all parties wanted the people to believe. It's the impression we deliberately conveyed. This evening, we have a chance to keep our promises, to honour our word, to keep faith in our country. I will vote to let the people decide. I urge honourable members to do so. The honourable members for Peterborough and Gravesham are indeed honourable. It is a privilege. It is a privilege to be their colleague on the backbenches.
Keep the cape.